So folks, Ethereum has finally passed $4,000. Why is this? It's a very bullish ruling from the SEC that might make alts go higher. Now, we already know Ethereum's not a security, but that doesn't account for many staking activities, especially liquid staking, which is becoming more and more popular among the crypto crowd because it allows you to retain liquidity while staking. And today, the SEC has announced that some liquid staking activities, not all, but some, have actually been declared not securities. So let's actually go over liquid staking first. What is liquid staking? Liquid staking allows users to deposit their crypto assets on a third-party provider, who then stakes those assets on the user's behalf, often on a proof-of-stake blockchain. In return, the user receives a staking receipt token, also known as a liquid staking token, or LSD, not the drug or the acid, but a liquid staking token that represents their ownership of the staked assets and any accrued rewards. This allows users to earn staking rewards while maintaining the liquidity of their assets, hence liquid staking. What the SEC statement says: the SEC statement clarifies that when liquid staking is done through a protocol that issues staking receipt tokens on a one-to-one basis without discretionary control over staking guaranteed returns. Now, these are the terms for this to actually apply. Operates in a primarily administrative or ministerial manner. Activities are limited to tasks like node selection and reward distribution. So it's more like hands-off liquid staking, not securities. Now, this actually opens up possibilities for protocols and exchanges. And of course, it opens up the possibility for people to hold and make money. Then these activities are not considered securities offerings. This means they don't need to be registered with the SEC. Obviously, not all liquid staking is created equal. The SEC's guidance is specific to certain types of liquid staking arrangements. Protocols that deviate from these parameters, such as those offering guaranteed returns or engaging in more complex financial activities with the staking receipt tokens, may still be subject to securities regulations. It's limited in scope. The statement represents the views of the SEC staff in the Division of Corporation Finance, not necessarily the official position of the SEC. But I think in this particular administration, knowing what we know and knowing that they've dropped most, if not all, crypto cases, it essentially does represent the official position of the entire SEC. Some SEC commissioners have expressed concerns about the guidance's narrow scope and potential for misinterpretation. And of course, I think they're going to continue to make crypto more friendly to investors and also big institutions. I think this does actually increase the incentive for big institutions to come into crypto, because now the liquid staking, you can have liquidity of your assets, but more than that, you can also earn a yield. So basically, like, the SEC's Division of Corporation Finance has released a statement saying that certain liquid staking activities, specifically those involving protocol staking, do not constitute the offer or sale of securities and therefore don't require registration with the SEC. The guidance provides clarity for the crypto industry, particularly for protocols that issue receipt tokens on a one-to-one basis for deposited assets, as long as they don't make discretionary staking decisions, guarantee returns, or engage in activities beyond administrative tasks. So essentially, they're just administrating like where the tokens go for like node selection and things like that. If they don't do anything else, if they're not any more involved, then they are not considered securities, and they have to issue receipt tokens or LSDs. This is a big movement forward for especially Ethereum, and that's why Ethereum is actually above $4,000 today at $4,043, and that is pulling the rest of the crypto industry up. XRP and XLM have retraced a little bit as of so far, but that was because of the euphoria of the case actually being over. But since most of that's already priced in, because when Gary Gensler stepped down, they took a little bit of a backseat, but other coins are actually coming up very well. And I do think overall the crypto industry is better off with Ethereum obviously breaking above 4,000 for the first time since January. So it's basically recovered to where it was in January, still about 20% or slightly less away from its all-time high. but the rest of the coins are following suit because Ethereum and ERC20 does actually control a lot of altcoin activity. And plus, the liquid staking isn't only an Ethereum thing. It's obviously, it's not only an Ethereum thing. It's still, it still affects all the other coins because many of them, like Solana, BNB, etc., have staking too, and they might be able to take advantage of this. Another kind of troubling thing in crypto is Roman Storm, the Tornado Cash developer, has basically been convicted on one of 3 charges. The other 2 were actually dropped, but a lot of crypto lawyers are saying that this needs to be pardoned. So a Tornado Cash developer Roman Storm conviction misapplies money transmitter laws, crypto industry group says, so they're obviously going to lobby for him. The conviction of Tornado Cash co-founder and developer Roman Storm could set a dangerous precedent for developers and privacy. So this might actually put devs in the crossfire, which would actually be bad for the crypto space because then there's going to be a lot of restrictions on what they can actually develop. They were Storm was found guilty of operating an unlicensed money transmitting business on August 6th. Now, I don't know if Tornado Cash can be considered a money transmitting business. It's essentially a mixer, and they don't necessarily transmit money. The crime carries a maximum sentence of 5 years, which is much better than what he was facing before. The jury could not reach a consensus on charges of conspiracy to commit money laundering and conspiracy to violate U.S. sanctions. Federal prosecutors could still retry him on these 2 charges. So they weren't completely dropped. I thought they were completely dropped, but they could retry him. But he faces up to 5 years in prison, more like 1 or 2 years, most likely. Legal professionals and industry observers have decried the verdict, saying that it sets a dangerous precedent for open source developers and has implications for user privacy. Obviously, Roman Storm wasn't really operating the money transmitting business. He did write the software for it, and it was basically more or less hands off. People were just using his service to actually mix. This could definitely be troublesome for dexes and mixers as well. So essentially, Roman Storm was out on Twitter. Final push next week. Our lawyers and experts are working around the clock. We've forgotten what normal sleep feels like. Every hour counts, and so do the costs. If you believe in fairness, open source, and freedom, please help us finish strong. So obviously, this is basically wanting more donations to free Roman Storm. So if you don't know what a cryptocurrency mixer is, it basically mixes addresses, basically cuts off the trails, and allows people to not be tracked in cryptocurrency. It's definitely become a favorite tool of tax evaders and money launderers, and that's why the FBI and the government actually is against Roman Storm. Some have maintained that the Tornado Cash devs cannot be or should not be held liable for the actions of the platform users because the devs don't really tell what the users should do. But then again, they did create this platform that enables users to do such things. However, just because you're a taxi company doesn't actually mean doesn't necessarily mean that you should be responsible for your driver basically committing murder in the car. Let's just Uber, right? I'm not really sure how that would actually work out in a lawsuit. I mean, I guess you should vet your employees, but these are non-KYC AML things, so they can't really vet anyone. What the individual users do with the platform is to the individual's user choice, but these mixers are kind of a giant magnet for illicit activity, and there's no safeguards onto it because there can be no safeguards onto it. So, the judge denied a motion to dismiss the case in September 2024, stating that Tornado Cash qualified as a money transmitter, and I think that's where the disagreement comes along because a lot of people do not actually see Tornado Cash as an actual money transmitter. I don't really see it either because all it really does is mix coins. It doesn't really transmit money. I guess it takes money on one side and then delivers it out the other for crypto to another address, regardless of whether the developers had control over the funds. Now, obviously they're not advisors, but it's basically just a platform that people can do everything with. And of course, the actions don't have to be illicit. So I think that argument is very much on shaky ground. As such, they should have enacted the same money anti-AML and KYC measures as any other such platform. The privacy-focused crypto community has closely followed the case, and now with Storm being found guilty, there is concern over what this means for decentralized finance and software development. The Blockchain Association, a crypto industry lobby group in Washington, said on Wednesday that the ruling sets a dangerous precedent for open source software developers. The association also referred to an amicus brief, a filing made in support of a party in a lawsuit, in this case Tornado Cash, in which it noted that Storm did not exercise control over the crypto that went through the protocol. Roman Storm built privacy tech that operated without his custody control over the funds of Tornado Cash users. Tornado Cash functioned as a non-custodial software, meaning that users maintain total control of their assets at all times, the association said. The Blockchain Association further stated that the verdict not only threatens open source software, but also fundamentally misapplies money transmitter laws. If concluded that this prosecution would criminalize developers of browsers, messaging apps, or any software misused by bad actors, seriously threatening America's leadership in tech. I'm not really sure if it's like that serious, but it definitely has a lot of implications. Obviously, they're going to actually draw a lot of support. And they might just appeal this case, obviously. This obviously casts a shadow over developer liability, which means developers can be liable for user actions. I think they'll definitely have to go more in depth on that, because you can't really say that developers are liable for all user actions. Obviously, this would actually make Coinbase liable for user actions. I mean, CEXs, because they have KYC AML, are way more liable for user actions, but there has to be a limit on how liable developers are for user actions. There's a question of whether creators of neutral software should bear criminal responsibility for its misuse remains. I definitely think that's not the case, because that would open up a huge, huge can of worms in other sectors as well. The case also exposes the justice system's current inability to comprehend an adequate decentralized technology. I do think they need to hire more experts on the subject. I do not like this ruling, because obviously this ruling basically restrains developers to a whole new certain degree, and that really should not be the case. And of course, there is a lot of debate over what's happening here. And the judge is, I think, trying to close this case as soon as possible, which he or she should not actually be doing. There's also the possibility of an appeal. The fight isn't over, said Crypto Council for Innovation CEO G. Kim. An appeal to the Second Circuit awaits. Regulatory clarity is also needed to clarify the definition of money transmitter. And I think that is the critical question of this. Are these guys money transmitters? Because if they are not, then this whole thing gets thrown out the window. Hopefully, the Court of Appeals does overturn this ruling, because it would really, really restrict what could actually be done in terms of software development for crypto. Storm has made no public comments following his conviction. It is still unknown whether he will seek an appeal, and his sentencing date is pending. So, that is the deal with Roman Storm. Once again, I am very much against this particular ruling, because it threatens DEXs, as well as many other things in crypto. This would mean if the app you're building in crypto, or not even in crypto, like in gaming, in anything, allows for the possibility of illegal actions using your app, then you are responsible for all users coming to actually use your app. And since, it basically kills decentralized apps is what it does. And maybe that's what the government wants, because they don't really have control over the decentralized apps. But it kind of kills decentralized development, because there's no way you can actually control decentralized development, hence why it's decentralized. And basically, it almost forces everything to be KYC AML. Now, I myself am not against KYC AML, but it would be a dagger to the crypto industry, and especially the OGs that believe in the crypto industry. They might actually have to move on to something else. But since it covers all software, and it doesn't only cover crypto, those OGs might just be out of luck. Would it cut down on tax fraud and money laundering? Probably. But you're also going to have a very hard time enforcing it if it moves overseas, and that might actually hinder your leadership in crypto innovation. Now, do I think this will actually impact crypto price? Most likely not, is my guess, because I think the majority of crypto users are okay with KYC AML. I think DEX activity could definitely go down, and DEX development in the United States could go down, and I think Trump and maybe other government agents will actually have something to say about that, and they might put a stop to rulings like this or make some laws that actually make this legal. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.